Mr. Vice Mayor and members of the board. It's my pleasure to be here with you tonight and to talk about what we learned about your library system while we were here. As James mentioned, I was a public library administrator of 2 large library systems. Over that 40-year period of time, I also was involved in building or designing and planning 50 to 60 libraries. Not only in the systems where I worked, but in library systems across the country. I'll just add that I was born in Tennessee and I grew up in Tennessee, so I have a strong family connection back to this part of the country. Providence Associates have done over 1,000 studies for public library buildings in the United States and internationally. We all are professional librarians, first of all. We're not a group of people who decided we would like to go out and see if we could corner a part of the market to tell people what they should build in the way of a library. But we've experienced it firsthand and been involved in designing and building libraries in various communities around the country. I'm going to ask that we advance to the first slide here. And I apologize for having to look to my side because I didn't know how this was going to work tonight. It's my first time in this room. But what we were engaged to do was to assess what you currently have in the way of a public library service in your community, and then to identify the functional spaces, the associated square footage required to serve for at least 20 or 30 years. That's about as far as you can plan, but you want to plan a building that's going to be flexible in design so that you know how, if you need to expand, you can expand it in the future without having to move to another location. So site selection is important to ensure that you have enough land to provide for the building and parking and other needs that you have for the next 20, 30 years. Libraries have changed a great deal. Perhaps you are a user of your local public library, have lived in other communities and used other public libraries, but libraries have transitioned, especially with the computer age and the technologies. They become more than just a warehouse of books. Books are becoming digitized, and there are all kinds of formats and materials that we use and borrow from our public library. They've become a third place, a place after home, a place after your workplace, a third place in the community. They become and are called community's living room, a place that people can go, they can meet with other people, collaborate. It's a place for everyone. Unlike what most of our taxes go for, the public library is something that everyone can make use of. And we found in this community a lot of people are using their public libraries. I see a lot of familiar faces here tonight because when I came here and met with people in the community, I had everybody wanting to talk to me, and everybody telling me how much a new library is needed for Spring Hill. Let's advance to the next slide. The public library in the 21st century truly enhances the quality of life in a community. It's one of the things that we've learned that people, developers and others that are looking at a community, moving into a new community, they want to know what kind of public library system you have in your community. It's a source for civic pride and excitement, something that, as one person said to me, the library here could be the future of Spring Hill because it can create a future for Spring Hill. It's a destination, something that's accessible to everyone. It's people-centric, not book-centric anymore. It fulfills that long lifelong learning and information needs from the cradle to the grave. And it provides programs. I mean, this community provides a lot of programs. The attendance is unbelievable. What the number of people you have coming out to the programs for children, adult programs, and teen programs. And it truly should be the heart and interactive flow of this community. Let's move on to the next slide. The need assessment process that we followed, we looked at the area demographics and the use of your library over the last few years. We had meetings in the community. We met with friends of the library, with the library board, with people from the community leaders. We did a survey online, and we had the greatest response we've ever had anywhere. 650 people responded to that survey, and they told us a lot, and it was all positive, telling us how they love the library, how important it is to them, and how they feel it's very important to this community in the future. We analyzed the data, the comments, and survey responses, and then we identified the functional spaces. And all this is in the report that we have submitted to James Cannon and to the library. The demographics, I don't probably need to go over all these in too much detail. I'm sure you've heard them before, the kind of population growth. The population trends to be younger here than most places in your state. 35% of the population is under the age of 20. Only 6.4 are over 65 years of age. A highly educated public. Go back and just make the median household income of $76,000 plus, 70% higher than Tennessee, the whole state. So it sounds like a very exciting place, and I've heard of Spring Hill over the years as I still look back at my home state. Good things happen here, and I've heard about the growth that's taking place here. And I've seen it personally as I've come here, as I tried to get down here to meet with you, and the amount of traffic that I encountered along the interstate was phenomenal. In fact, I thought I was going to be late. I'm glad you were late. You had planning meeting, so I wasn't late. The library use that we found from the surveys we did, 72% of the people said they use the library at least monthly. 50% of those use the library weekly. And that's, again, phenomenal, thinking about what you support with tax dollars and the amount of use that's made of it. The children's materials account for the highest number of percentage annual checkouts, and these are some figures you can look at later. But what we find, this is not unusual as far as the breakdown of adults and children. We know how important education libraries are to the young people in this community, help us support education, and that's exactly what you want to see in your community. We'll go to the next. Programming, again, phenomenal. 300-400 children signing up to come to programs. You have to hand out tickets and you have to sign people up because so many people want to come. It's really phenomenal. Let's move on to the next one. The survey findings, so we found that 650 residents, 48% from Murray County and 52% from Williamson County responded. They want a library facility that accommodates the needs and the interests of the community. And these are some of the things that they would like to see in a new library. And I'm not going to stand here and read these to you tonight, but all the things you'd expect people to find. So many people who came to the meetings I had moved here from other parts of the country. And so the expectations were very high. And we found that so many people are moving in. There were 2 people told me they moved here because their children moved here. And they had moved from California or other parts of the country where they had experienced and known very strong public library systems. Let's advance to the next one. Some of the quotes from the surveys. Again, I won't read all of these. The library is so important to so many people. One person said there are 33,000 residents and 29,000 have library cards. I think that came from the Chamber of Commerce. That was given to me. This is a unique community involvement, excitement about the library exists. So on and on, everyone positive. I didn't hear a single negative comment other than the building is not adequate or there are too many people to programs. Let's advance. A new library should be a place of great community pride. And as I looked at your community, I think you have a real opportunity here to create something for the people, something that they really feel can be their own, a public library which they can take great pride, something they can point out as being something that means a great deal to them, something they can show off when their family or friends or out-of-towners come that they want to take them to see the public library. The facility conveys civic significance. We had some input and I had great ideas on that, how that might be done. A catalyst for the redevelopment of the downtown. I'm working down in Naples, Florida, Bonita Springs, Florida now, and their downtown had withered and dried up and gone away. And so they have this great idea. And the library should be the catalyst for this new downtown because it draws more people than anything else. Developers look at that. So they can put the library, they can bring in the coffee shops, the restaurants, the other things that support that community life. This is happening around the country. I'm living now part-time in Bethesda, Maryland, which has a downtown city center. The library is at the very heart of it, Rockville, Maryland. Throughout the country, we see this happening. New library development taking place all across the country. This is one of the most phenomenal periods of growth of public libraries in the country. There are people, the soothsayers saying, well, with technology, with computers, why do we need libraries? It's done nothing but enhance the role of the library in supporting the internet and what you can acquire and all the sources from around the world, the World Wide Web, that your library can provide access to. And again, a hub for free access to robust high-speed connections to the internet. And that's going to be something very important to your community. Let's advance the next one. It needs to be welcoming, spacious, comfortable, bright, and colorful, designed with maximum flexibility, because things are going to continue to change. Nothing stays the same. Libraries have certainly changed already. They're changing every day. New technologies are bringing more changes. So whatever you build needs to be a building with great flexibility. Also, keeping in mind it may need to be expanded at some point. Gathering spaces, meeting spaces that are flexible. You want to, it should be, besides you're talking about a single-story building, every time you add another floor to a library, it becomes more expensive to operate, it takes more staff, the cost of elevators, contracts, all those things. Perhaps design it so it could be expanded upward if you need to in the future. But initially, it should be a one-story building. And then utilizing new technologies that are out there for self-checkout, self-check-in, cuts down the amount of time and the number of staff that it takes to do these things. The online materials that you're going to be loan at, people can download music, download films, download books, pay their own fines and fees, and they incur those. So let's move to the next. Our recommendations of new larger buildings support the continued high usage. We're seeing 41,000 to 45,000 gross feet at this time. The current library site cannot accommodate the kind of building you want to build. And keep in mind, when selecting the site for a library, it's important to keep in mind that the library should be in the kind of place if a department store was going to look at putting a location here in the store, where would they put it? You want to put it where people pass it every day, where they sit, they're invited to stop, where there's ease of access, a place that, again, is very visible to the community. And so if you're going to spend this amount of money, you want to make sure it gets the highest use possible. For that reason, it needs to be on a major traffic artery, again, with easy access, easy egress. I think we can go on to the next one. Just some ideas to show you some pictures and examples. Self-checkout in the upper left-hand corner. On the bottom right-hand corner is a check-in system. These used to be cost prohibitive. They're not anymore for a library your size. Having equipment that's mobile and casters, so you can rearrange the building as you need to, so that the staff can actually move around their workstations from location to location in the building. Let's advance to the next one. Shelving on casters, something that we're recommending everywhere. With your meeting spaces, have it flexible so it can be divided into smaller spaces to accommodate more groups. And then a lot of meeting space collaborative spaces for people who want to come to the library to need to talk about a building plan or talk about a zoning issue or whatever it might be. Homeowners associations across the country use libraries a great deal. Most communities, and I don't think yours is different, have very few places that the community can meet free of charge. And a place that's open at least 6 days a week, if not 7. The library meeting spaces are very heavily used. The next slide, please. Again, meeting spaces of all sizes, multi-purpose rooms, smaller spaces, computer-type training spaces. Next slide. Comfort and noisy and quiet areas. Some people want to be quiet and live in the library. Some people love all that's going on in the hustle and bustle of the families coming to the library and don't mind that. But you want to have a variety of space. You want to have a place where people can sit. You want to make sure you have an outlet at every location. You want to have 2 outlets so they can plug their computer in so they can charge their telephone at the same time. So that needs to be every place anyone might sit in the library. Next slide. Children's interactive, colorful spaces for children of all ages. Next slide. Spaces just for teens. I was told here, the teens don't have where to go after school except to Walmart. And so spaces, and these have proven to be very popular across the country, where they can go, where they can interact, where they are assigned collaborative projects in school. They need a place to go work. Not every child has access to the computer or to the World Wide Web at home. They have to go to the public library, a place they can interact with, they can call their own. Next slide. Some functions that we heard here important in this community. A recording studio, which many people, not many, but some people have in their homes now. It's not a tremendous expense, and we were told that would be something very popular in this area. Collaborative study spaces, again, not only for students, but for adults who want to get together, who have a project, who are planning something, writing a building application, whatever it might be, people get to do that. And then in the lower center, maker spaces. Libraries encourage creativity. Now with 3D printers and all sorts of things that are very affordable, you can create spaces where you can teach, where children can interact, can learn, and truly become creative in their public library. Next slide. And then incorporating use of outdoor spaces. You really have some green space around your building, so incorporate that building to become a part that you can use as another room for the library. And the next slide should be the last. I'm going to stop here. I've tried to work a lot in to a few minutes, but it's been a long evening for everyone. It's been so exciting to work with Don and Couch, to work with the Board of Trustees, to see the interest of the Friends of the Library, to see the people. Again, I recognize so many of these that I've talked to, and I was amazed to see how many people I recognized when I came in tonight. It's been a real pleasure to be here. I've been thrilled to see this kind of activity in a growing community, a very vital community, that this library could become something so important to the community, to the lives of the people here. Do you have questions I can answer for you tonight?
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I appreciate you taking the time to talk to us tonight and the study you've done. So, quick question for you is, how do you tell, or what are some of the warning signs that a community has outgrown its library facilities?
When you don't, your library here, you took what used to be a kindergarten, I think, or a preschool, and adapted that building for a library. That can be done, but it doesn't make for a very good library in most cases. Libraries that are designed as libraries with creative spaces, flexible spaces, are what you want. You don't have enough space for children, you don't have programming spaces for them. You don't have the space for the conduits, for the connectivity, for the computers. You don't have enough computers, workstations in the library. The programming is one of the big things. All you have to do is, I haven't been here when a program occurred, but I've heard about them, and the hundreds of people and parking everywhere to try to get to the library. So there's a tremendous use. When we look at the usage that's being made, the amount of service that you're getting out of this small 17,000 square foot building is phenomenal. When we looked at the data, and the circulation, and the computer kits, this type of thing. All it says is it makes you know that a new library, a much larger library, is very much needed in this community. And when you have the public speaking out for something that they want, something that they are so positive about that tax dollars are spent for, I've run a number of campaigns to build new libraries. What I find across the country in my own personal experiences is that people will support public libraries and they won't support anything else. There's something about warm and fuzzy, and that's my first memories are going to the library. I know that my grandmother taking me to sit on the bench at story time, and that had a great influence on my life and my desire to learn and be creative. The library can mean so much again for this community, to give it a new life, a new angle, a new center, a new activity, place that people can go and interact with other people. So I think you've got the groundwork for really making something very, very exciting happening here. It's one of the most creative libraries I've seen of its size in Tennessee. I recently spoke to all the libraries in Tennessee. I was invited by the state library to come back and speak to the trustees from libraries across the state of Tennessee at one meetings. So I had a chance after 30 years to come back and see what's happening across the state. And I saw some beautiful new buildings in Crossville, in Union City, other towns across the state that are about the size of what you're planning here, and I see what they mean to those communities. But the enthusiasm that exists here that I experience personally is what I find so exciting.
Anyone else?
Thank you.
Thank you very
I'll be
much.
watching with great deal of interest.
So you're guaranteeing us that we can build what's in those slides for $10 million, is that correct?
No, I didn't give you the $10 million. I think his figures sound reasonable, probably $250 to $300 a square foot. Then you still have the site, whether or not you're at cost. Hopefully you might. Many communities, and I've experienced this, have found some individual community who held the ownership to a piece of private property that in return for naming a meeting room for that person's family that was willing to build a site for the library. I've raised millions of dollars for new libraries because of people wanting to be a part of it, wanting to participate. So there are a lot of opportunities and options for you out there.
Thank you very much for being here tonight.
So there's one more slide here, and then Alan would like to say something for just a minute or two. Again, that connecting spring appeal to the world, through having the connectivity that you need in the broadband access is something that I noted with great interest because that's very low at this time in this area. And so that's going to be a priority, I know, with Alan. I think we'd like to speak to that.